The Missing Star by Gianni Amelio, a film review by Ciro Discepolo. One of those films that makes you wonder why Italian cinema, once great, once the greatest, once the best, has since declined to ever lower levels, with a few exceptions. I've seen it over and over again at least 4 times, and as I've been doing for some time, I've preferred not to read any of the critics' reviews, so I can fully enjoy it, and I truly enjoyed seeing it. Gianni Amelio is a truly important director who has nothing to envy anyone. I like his sober, essential narrative, almost never indulgent, but one that embraces feelings and indeed makes them the protagonists. The Missing Star, Italy, France, Switzerland, 2006, 104 minutes, is a love film, but not only that. The brilliant Sergio Castellitto is our hero who falls in love, almost against his will, with the deliberately ugly female protagonist, the young Chinese woman Liu Hua. Even the most distracted viewer immediately understands that the journey of this series is a metaphor for the journey of nascent China, the young Liu Hua, in her early 20s, alongside the old continent, Vincenzo Buonavolontà, in search of what? A possible identity, for the passing of the baton in the control room, for a possible future of cooperation. The latter, full of arrogance, believes he has something to teach the future masters of the world, and sets off for Shanghai, believing he has discovered a defect in a blast furnace control unit that the Chinese purchased at discount prices from a Genoese industrialist. Vincenzo Buonavolontà is convinced that the faulty control unit will cause enormous damage to Asians, and, armed with presumption and a slightly racist paternalism, he begins this rather foolish journey from the very beginning. Liu Hua will act as his interpreter, and together they will travel across the immense country we saw, cinematically speaking, in a completely different light, in Bernardo Bertolucci's The Last Emperor. I haven't seen the China depicted in Gianni Amelio's film, even though I've been there for 3 years in a row and in 4 different megacities, all the way to Baotou, Chinese Mongolia, a rich steelworks region where the film ends and where I once spent a special birthday. Amelio didn't bother challenging those who had given him a lot of money to make a film that was certainly not cheap. When it came to providing us with images, he didn't hold back and showed us true and shocking aspects of a China that not even dissident director Zhang Yimou had shown us in the sweet and dramatic Not One Less. Apartment buildings with 8,000 inhabitants, 30 to 40-story skyscrapers without elevators, tiny apartments with bunks set up like submarines, and with 30 to 40 people living in 50 square meters, children exploited in factories, even truant for the most menial and dangerous jobs, pollution that shows the sun once a year. And we could go on. In one of the film's key dialogues, the girl explains to the foreigner that the red stars of the Chinese Communist flag stand for honesty, patience, justice, and solidarity. But her interlocutor replies, "I knew something else, but in any case there's always some star missing." The journey a bit silly from the start. Can the old continent still imagine protecting a country that's growing at an average of 9% per year and will soon be the most economically powerful in the world? Continues. And every now and then, the girl utters an ancient proverb from that land, something that reminds us of the millennia-old culture of this immense country that could even be a continent in itself. We could say that the girl, in a potential dispute about the pros and cons of today's China, isn't taking sides but is questioning herself and Problematically, she too is the victim of many questions she would like to answer. For example, she wonders why her son is and will remain a little bastard. Children in China are born with the approval of the party within the time frame and measures it establishes. She also wonders whether she's a good or bad Chinese woman, given that she has betrayed the trust of her parents, her country, her expectations. The entire feature film by the author of L'America is full of questions, and this, combined with a truly magnificent soundtrack and cinematography, makes it a masterpiece. And I must also mention the screenplay, dialogue, direction, and everything else. I haven't read the book La Dismissione, on which the film is based, and therefore I can't attempt to compare it, but these probably don't even interest the author, who wanted to tell us this evocative story. Tired, dirty, and penniless, Vincenzo Buonavolontà finally reaches Baotou and hands over his precious control unit to a Chinese technician. He rides away on his bicycle with a smile of immense satisfaction, unable to see the technician throwing yet another control unit into the trash behind him, which they have already replaced with more technologically advanced models. The ending is both emblematic and crystal clear. The two had gotten lost and find themselves in front of an old train station, where a black and red coal-fired locomotive arrives, a virtual twin of the one that transported Dr. Zhivago to the Urals in David Lean's cinematic masterpiece. Here we sense that the two will attempt to challenge the future together, and the straight tracks of an old train station can well represent timeless values, including those of love, independent of ethnicity, historical era, and geographical location. Ciro Discepolo, many, many years ago.